This is Dan Max, the trading agent. This is a stock trading and recap channel that I wanted to share to the masses. In a probability game, there's no certainty. Here are my insights and predictions.
This is Dan Max at eXp Realty, aka the trading agent. Today, back to basics, we're going to go over head and shoulders patterns. They're one of the more difficult patterns to see as they're forming because the left shoulder, the head, the right shoulder takes time. Whether it's on a shorter term time frame or a longer term time frame, these patterns are very powerful. The bigger and longer the time frame, the more powerful they are. And here's just a killer formation. It's just something I'm always looking for. If you go to Investopedia terms, head and shoulders, you can read about it. It just has to do with three peaks. You have the head, you have a shoulder, you have a head, and a shoulder. Typically the shoulders have approximately even heights. After long bullish trends, the price rises to a peak and subsequently declines to form a trough. The price rises again to form a second high, substantially above the initial peak, and declines again. The price rises a third time, but the only level of the first peak before declining more. It's a tug of war pattern. If you ever hear me say chop precedes the drop, chop precedes the pop, it's a chop pattern that precedes a trend change. You can have inverse head and shoulders where it's a bottom. One of the things that's I think people should always keep in mind with head and shoulders patterns is when they invalidate, there are usually big moves to the other side. So if you have a head and shoulders top and it invalidates, then you usually rip to much higher prices. If you have a head and shoulders bottom and it fails, that stock will get absolutely obliterated. People who know me for a long time have said, wanted to know why I like gold for so long. Well, here's a classic head and shoulders bottom on the monthly. A monthly head and shoulders should take months, maybe even years to set up. And back in the 2013 to 2018 area, we talked about how this was setting up the left shoulder. Here was the head and the right shoulder, and then these trend lines formed, and then you could play the rocket moves. And long story short, that's just an example on a big trend or a big chart where, it went and did basically a double. What gold will do in the future? We'll talk about that in another video. So here's an intraday pattern, which I was screaming about as of last week. And last week, maybe in the future, you'll be able to reference this, was early November 2021. You can see that this 31 area is an important line. It goes back further into the past. You see very clearly, here's the left shoulder, here's the head, here's the retest on the right shoulder. And now we bought it at 31. Very simple. Could it have turned into a W? Of course it could have, but here's where we play the probabilities. We've broken the downtrend. We're making higher lows, and then we also pay attention to volume, and the volume on the selling was shit. Head and shoulders pattern, very clear here, how you would play this to go up and higher. Looking at, say, for example, Apple as a head and shoulders top potential, but if it invalidates, it could definitely go higher. Here's your left shoulder, here's your head, here's your right shoulder. Now keep in mind the shoulder lines, they can be at off angles. They don't have to be perfectly exact. I talk about that with folks because people like to get exact. And this is a game where it's horseshoes and hand grenades. Hand grenades are close, You can do little sub secondary shoulder lines like such if needed. But in general, these are very powerful formations that if you're trading long enough, you should always think that's a potential. We'll get into some of the other patterns, but I wanted to keep this short and talk about head and shoulders. If you ever see me post about it, I always say shampoo as a joke because head and shoulders is a shampoo, obviously. And it's one of the formations that I'm always kind of thinking is possible. I'm always looking for W's and head and shoulders patterns. I don't believe in V bottoms. You very rarely see them. If you do, it's usually after some extremely big drop or extremely big pop. And those are the only times you really get V patterns. I would say 1 out of 10 setups is going to be a V. And if it is, I might miss it. That's just the nature of the game. You play the probability. So if you think 90% of the time you're going to form a head and shoulders or a W or an M, the 1 out of 10 times you're going to miss. And missing happens. It's not the end of the world, but that's the kind of stuff you have to think about. So this is Dan Max at eXp Realty with the Back to Basics series. The trading agent is signing out. If you have more questions, pop into the Discord, drop a comment. But yeah, this is basically a quick recap of Head and Shoulders. We'll get into more of this in time, and I appreciate everybody. I'll talk to you guys soon.
Thanks for watching. Please subscribe if you like the content. Also smash the like button, share with your friends, and add a comment. If there's a topic or stock you'd like me to give you insight about, let me know in the comment section. I'll do my best to answer your question. Thanks.